I have discovered a library within a library. Well, to be more accurate, it feels as though this recursive library has found me, for I've yet to meet someone else who can recognize it. It is a very unusual phenomena I discovered a little while ago upon visiting the public library in my hometown for the first time in many years. It was the first time in a while that I visited to actually investigate the books for their own sake, anyhow. I noticed a new door near the back, which I figured must simply be a new construction I was oblivious to. But when I entered, I was left astonished. Through the door laid a room crafted out of ornate woodwork that reminded me of castles in Europe I've once had the pleasure of visiting. The craftsmanship of every chair enraptured me with the story of the hands which carved it. The walls, floors, and shelves formed a single body, unbroken, and breathing a simple beauty for my eyes to behold. Surely, I thought to myself, the library must have received a donation by some rich fellow who grew up in this town and wanted to see a little piece of it flourish. After I came to my senses, I was quick to investigate the contents of this room. The shelves were adorned with several books of every stature, poetry and history, fictional and factual, large and small, old and new. What stood out to me was that none of the names of the authors were recognizable to me, nor were any of the figures mentioned in the histories. It hadn't been that long since my high school literature class that I wouldn't recognize any of these authors. And while I'm no historian, I've always enjoyed learning about the past of our world as an amateur. I left the room to inquire about the new exhibit to one of the librarians, but I was only met with confusion. There was no exhibit, I was told, and there hasn't been any in construction on this library for years. I knew that I was not imagining things, so I begged the librarian to follow me to show her to the room in question. Maybe I was describing it poorly, and seeing it would jog her memory. When we came to the door, she only bore a look on her face, like a babysitter whose kid wouldn't stop insisting about there being more candy in the cabinets. After a number of attempts to identify the door before me, she simply apologized and left me dazed in bewilderment. Leaving the library in confusion, I couldn't stop thinking about how to explain what had happened to me. I came up with a number of theories, but I don't recall that any of them were right or even close to right. I returned to the library a few times with some friends, but the results hardly changed. I finally placed the first piece of the puzzle when I visited the modest library of my church. I found a door to a broom closet I had never noticed before, and within it there was the same room of living wood adorned with the mysterious books. Sure enough, the chairs, tables, walls, and books were all identical to those I found in my public library as far as I could tell. A bit unnerved by this discovery, but also quite exhilarated, I decided to test a theory this gave me. Perhaps this was something waiting for me in every library. I visited 5 more libraries in my area, all of varying sizes, and there I found the wooden room again and again. I still had several questions, but I was glad to finally have answered one. I accepted the fact that, somehow, only I could perceive or visit this room, no matter how hard I tried, so I decided I would just get to know it and its contents. As I continued to read through several books, I became enchanted with these sagas and legends of ages past. The fictional books all appeared to grow from the cultures that the non-fiction books described, and it was fascinating to see the picture of humanity that they painted. Well, maybe humanity isn't the best word, but you'll see about that in a moment. After reading through enough books, I became certain that they were not describing anything that has ever happened in the entire history of this earth. The founding of large empires and kingdoms on continents I've never heard of, the spread of religions utterly alien to myself, And not to mention that the more I read, the less the people sounded like they were even humans. Truly, the look on my face must have been priceless when I realized that the repeated references to the fangs, flowers, and stalks of these people probably weren't figurative. Somehow, I found myself concluding that this library is showing me glimpses of another Earth, another world even. I honestly didn't know what to think or what to do with this conclusion for several months. But as I was about to graduate from university, and was about to get very busy, then this discovery was given to me alone, of all people. After a great deal of prayer and meditation, I saw that I need to at least share something here that I found. So I have chosen to start by writing a book, illustrating one piece of the history of this world, for you all to see with me. I chose to record the story of a young woman whose story inspired me. She isn't incredibly important in the grand scheme of their history, and certainly not anything like Napoleon or Alexander the Great on our Earth. Yet, her story is one highly revered by some poets I enjoyed, and upon reading some of it myself, I must say I share their appreciation. I don't want to share too much about it yet, since I still have some studying to do as I write the book, and I would hate to say something that turns out to be wrong. However, I can certainly say that her story reminds me of a certain passage of Scripture. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. I hope that you will be as pleased with her story as I am, and that I can do it justice. I will continue to share things that I discover about this world with you all on this channel in future reports. I already have so many things that I wish to share, but it takes time to collect all the research. So, in the meantime, I will be also sharing some stories I've come up with, and talking from my perspective about other people's stories that I've appreciated. I'm a lover of narrative, so might as well make that the theme of the channel. If you're interested in following along, please make sure to like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment for what you want me to investigate in the Wooden Room for future videos. Okay, this is after editing. After I collected my thoughts and I wrote all of this out, I returned to the Wooden Room once again, for study, of course. I think it has grown